Good morning. You can see the slideshow?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay, great. Okay. Yes,
you.
as Joey said, my name is Yolanda Inguanzo. I work for USDA APHIS, Plant Protection and Quarantine, and this is kind of what our mission statement is, and our purpose is to safeguard agriculture and natural resources against the entry, establishment, and spread of significant plant pests, which then helps facilitate trade and help protect natural resources. And within APHIS, there's a program that I work with mostly called CAPS, Cooperative Agricultural Pest Survey, which deals with doing surveys, pest surveys for exotic pests, which include insects, plant pathogens, and some other things, some nematodes. The CAPS program mission is to conduct surveys through a national network. We work closely with the state and other local governments to protect American agriculture. The CAPS program has is very focused in its in what it works with. So there's a very comprehensive structured assessment process to identify which pests will be funded, which surveys will be funded. And also the CAPS program has developed scientifically sound survey protocols, survey methods, and pest diagnostic methods. In order to be on the national priority pest list, which are the pests that are funded for being surveyed, it's necessary that the pest will have a high impact, it's exotic and not already established in the United States. There must be a proven and effective pest detection method, either trap and lure or a good visual survey method. There must be good diagnostic methods and resources available. And if a pest has become established already, it is removed from this list. This is a picture of the CAPS website. There's a lot of really good information. I always encourage people whenever I give these talks to go on here and look at the information that they have. There's a lot of pest data sheets with a lot of good information and pictures. This website is kind of a website that's more for the public to see the results of surveys that have been done and more information on the target pests. So I encourage you again to take a look at that. If you're interested in help finding these resources, don't hesitate to contact me. I can send you a direct link or more information. Here's a picture of the pest tracker website. A lot of good information. So survey methods that are used in the CAPS program include these: trap and lure, visual survey. Some pests require a collection of a sample, and when the correct survey method is used, then that allows for the reporting of negative data. So you can say, if you looked at it, if you looked for it in the correct way, you can say that you didn't find it, and so that it is not known to occur. Here's an example of a trap that is used in some surveys. This is a trap for emerald ash borer, and the traps are designed for this insect and for all the insects in the CAPS program to make use of the pest biology, and it's this pest will be attracted to vertical dark surfaces like the trunk of a tree. Some other examples of some traps: this is a trap for nun moth, which again uses a pheromone within the trap to take advantage of the pest biology to try to detect it in the best way. Here's another insect trap. This is a gypsy moth trap, or a spongy moth trap, which again makes use of the pest biology by being placed right up against the trunk of the tree, which is where the female would be emitting the pheromone. Here's another example of a trap for Siberian silk moth, and another example of a trap for rosy gypsy moth. This is a trap for wood boring insects, which takes advantage of the insect kind of queuing in on tall, dark, vertical, columns like a tree trunk. And as I mentioned before, some pests require sampling. So here's a pest survey for a nematode pest by taking soil samples. In the CAPS program, we always try to use the pathway approach to survey. So the pathway is kind of how a pest gets from where it is to where it was to where it is. Some of the pathways that pests use to spread might be, for example, shipping containers. And here you see a picture of spongy moth egg masses on a shipping container. Another pathway that pests get around is solid wood packing material. Here's a picture of Customs and Border Protection taking apart a wood pallet which had a beetle larva embedded in the wood. Here's another picture of that beetle larva. And as you can see here, or you probably might be familiar with all of the shipping that comes into the state of Washington. In our state, we receive a lot of containers, and all of them are full of wood packing material, which has the potential of bringing in wood-boring insects. Here's a list of some of the insects that might be spread on wood packing material. They include a lot of wood-boring insects, longhorn beetles, metallic beetles, some wood-boring moths, bark beetles, wood wasps. One of the ways that the nations of the world sort of mitigate the potential of spreading wood-boring insects between them through trade is by using these stamps on wood packing material. The stamps signify that the wood packing material has been treated according to the agreements that the nations that trade with each other have come to, either using heat treatment or methyl bromide fumigation. But there is the potential of counterfeit stamps being used, so the stamp is not really the full solution to the problem. There still needs to be a lot of surveillance and pest surveys. Here are some wood-boring insects that can spread on wood packing material. The emerald ash borer on the left and the Asian longhorn beetle. Another pathway that might bring pests to the U.S. are stone and tile. Pests that can be intercepted on stone and tile include snails, and also spotted lanternfly has been shown to be spread on stone and tile. Here are a couple of examples of snails that are on the CAPS list and that have the potential to be imported into the U.S. Also, spotted lanternfly can be moved on stone and tile, as they sometimes will deposit their egg masses on tile that's sitting at a port, and then the potential is that tile can be brought in to the U.S. Here's another picture of spotted lanternfly as an adult. Oops. Here are the immature stages of spotted lanternfly. When they are in their earliest stages, they're black and white, and then as they molt and develop further, they turn red. This is the adult stage. And the egg mass can be very difficult to detect, but it's one of the things that surveyors look for. Spotted lanternfly, in its earliest life stages, feeds predominantly on tree of heaven. Here's a picture of tree in heaven. On the left, you can see it's when it's immature, the leaf is kind of has this pinkish orangish tinge to it. More pictures of the immature stage of spotted lanternfly. The mature form of the tree of heaven has these tooths at the base of the leaflets. If you notice any tree of heaven near where you live, it's a good opportunity for you to keep an eye on it, because spotted lanternfly, when it first arrives, if it arrives in Washington, it would probably show up on this plant first, and it's a potential of early detection if you keep an eye on your tree of heaven as sort of a sentinel. I don't think we have much of it in Western Washington, but in other areas of the state, I think there's a lot more of it. Here's a map showing the distribution of tree of heaven. The Latin name is Ailanthus altissima. It is a Class C noxious weed in Washington, indigenous to China. The spotted lanternfly will move on to other hosts as it develops, and some of the hosts are things that are common in Washington: maple, poplar, apple, prunus. Going back to the pathways for snails and slugs. Some snails and slugs are intentionally imported for the pet trade. For example, the giant African snail was intentionally imported and it was found in Miami, and I believe they eradicated it from there. But there's always a threat of people intentionally importing snails for pets. They're also occasionally brought in on soil, on nursery stock plants, on tile and stone, and on shipping containers. Here's a picture of a shipping container at the Port of Longview in February of 22, where CBP detected a snail on a shipping container. And you can see that they could be very easy to miss. So although CBP finds a lot of things, there's potential of things being missed and being introduced. There's another picture of the Succinia. A different species, Cathaica, was found detected at the Port of Vancouver by CBP in November of 21. And one of the mitigating things that they can do when they find snails in cargo is to fumigate. Here's a picture of cargo being fumigated at the port. In 2005, Washington State Department of Agriculture detected Cernuella virgata, another exotic snail species, at the Port of Tacoma. And here's kind of an aerial map of the location, the peninsula right here, the Hylobos Peninsula, where it was found. Here's a picture of Cernuella virgata when it was first detected. The snails were fairly large and really abundant at the site. Again, it was found by USDA surveyors who were surveying for wood boring insects. At the time it was detected in Tacoma, it had recently been introduced into North America and had been eradicated from there, or from North Carolina. So WSDA and USDA developed a plan for eradicating the snail from the Port of Tacoma. It was important to eradicate it because, being a port, it would have had a really large impact if it had gotten established there, maybe restricting trade and impacting our economy. So the prescription was to remove debris from the site prior to applying molluscicide, remove vegetation, apply the molluscicide in the spring and in the fall, and then in the fall and the spring, intensive surveys with trained surveyors. We found that it really made a big impact, a big difference. If the surveyors were trained, they had a much better success at finding things. Here's a picture of in 2006 when it was, when it was first detected. The green triangles are where the snails were found. And then in 2011, it kind of was narrowed down to they got rid of it in a lot of the lots, but it was still in these kind of wetland areas. At one point, WSDA brought in some detector dogs to see if that could be one of the tools to help in finding where they were. And the larger dogs seem to have a better time with the rough vegetation and terrain. This is kind of a map showing where the detector dogs found found snails. And then fast forward to 2020, after all the years of the program of removing vegetation, applying molluscicide, it was finally kind of reduced to these two wetland patches where it was more difficult to apply molluscicide because of the wetland buffer. At one point, steam treatment was tried to see if that could be a tool also to help. Here's a picture of the steam treatment. Here's a summary showing kind of the best time for a season for survey and eradication activities, and it shows here that in the middle of the summer, when it's really hot and dry, is not the best time to survey for snails because they kind of go into a dormancy. But in the spring and in the fall, and even in milder climates, right, along the coast, even in the winter, you can survey for snails.
About 3 minutes left, Yolanda.
Okay. Surveying for snails, spring, winter, and fall near heavily vegetated areas, at the base of plants, under leaves, under objects and debris like pieces of wood. Always remember, if you're going to be surveying for snails, wear gloves or wash your hands after handling mollusks because they are potential carriers of harmful pathogens. I'm just going to kind of go really quickly. I encourage you to look at the don'tmovefirewood.org website. There's a lot of really good information about firewood as a pathway, what pests it has the potential of being a pathway for, and activities. There's a lot of kids pages for kids educating. So a couple of slides I have here of pests that can spread on firewood. This is spongy moth. There's more information on the website of pests that can spread on firewood. Nursery stock is another pathway that can carry pests in. Some pests that can spread on nursery stock, plant pathogens, insects, and also mollusks. I encourage you to take a look at the Washington Invasive Species Council website. There's a lot of information here, but also, most importantly, the form that you can use to report a pest if you find one. I'm just kind of scrolling through these quickly. If you do find an invasive species or something that you think might be an invasive species or a sign of an invasive species, like exit holes or trees losing their leaves, here's a form that you can go to on the invasive species website, Invasive Species Council website, to report your findings and have somebody look into it further. When you are making a report, collect as much information as you possibly can. It's important to get an accurate location. If you can give the street address, if you have latitude and longitude, that's ideal. Where on the property did you find the sign of the pest or the pest? Give a general description. If you have the ability to take digital images with your phone, that's ideal. Take a picture of the pest if you're able to. If you're able to capture the pest and put it in a container, sometimes it helps to put, if it's an insect, to put it in the freezer. That kind of slows it down, puts it to sleep, so you can take a good picture. If you can get a picture of the host plant, include that. Submit the report right away, the same day if possible. Here's some tips on taking a good picture of a pest. Put the camera as close as you can to it. My phone, if I tap on the screen when I'm taking a picture of something close up, if I tap on the screen with my finger, it will focus in on the thing that's up close. I don't know if other phones work in a similar way. Take several pictures if possible, and then you can, use the clearest one that you have to submit with your report. If you can, crop the image to get a close-up of details. If possible, include a pencil or a ruler as a scale reference to show the size. And the location information, very important that it be accurate, and if possible, an address or a lat long. And very important, don't use images you found on the internet. Only use images in the submission process. Only use images that you have taken yourself with your own camera. Again, if you're able to capture it, you can put it in the freezer. And here's my contact information. If you have any questions about any of this information, or if you would like any of these slides, don't hesitate to contact me. I'm happy to work with anyone. If you want to work with me on some pest surveys, I'm happy to do that. Thank you.